Let's dive into some of the worst meltdowns we've ever seen. I'm talking about insane downward spirals or even totally collapsing.
I can't do anything. Stay with it. There's nothing I can do. I've been demoted.
Dude really let his intrusive thoughts win, didn't he? So for those of you who are still wondering what's going on, this happened in season 10. Now, Brian was assigned to the meat station and he sent out a tray of meat that turned out to be a hot mess. We're talking raw and unrested New York strip, Wellingtons that looked like they were sliced with a chainsaw, and perfect pork. But hey, at least one thing was right, credit where credit is due. You see, Brian was beating himself over it, calling for a refire in 5 minutes like he had it all under control. But it really didn't get any better for the guy. Sometime later, he realized that one of his precious New York strips was overcooked. Oh god, that's pretty awful. And as if the Blue Diners weren't already fed up enough, some of them just walked out in frustration. I mean, come on, waiting on an empty stomach, watching the chefs fail to make your order over and over again? Like, you really can't blame them, really. However, back in the kitchen, crises kept multiplying, and most of it was Brian's fault. He served up some seriously overcooked Wellingtons, and as you could probably guess, that was the last straw. Chef Ramsay marched into the red kitchen and pulled Barbie over to take charge of the meat station.
On a blackjack at night, Barbie comes over to finish my station?
And boy am I glad he did. Things were disastrous here. Meanwhile, Brian was fuming, like the guy had a full-blown temper tantrum.
7 minutes for casting, chef.
And let me tell you, it wasn't a pretty sight. Oh no. Not only did he mess up the food, but he also threw his professionalism right out the window. Having a meltdown on camera for the world to see? Not a really good look, Brian. If there was anything Chef Ramsay was looking for in a head chef, it wasn't just regular old culinary acumen. He was also looking for someone who could keep themselves calm in a crisis. And Brian totally fell flat in both areas, no less. But hey, most chefs have their own way of doing things. And this next one was no different. Have you checked this profile out yet? Why did the chef add extra oregano to the sauce? Well, he was making up for lost time. well, I can appreciate a good pun. And that was courtesy of this next chef who was pretty consistent throughout the competition, except for one really bad night.
I think Frank might have lost it. Hello, Earth to Frank.
You see, Frankie from season 13 was pretty good up until episode 9. During the dinner service, Frank was in charge of the fish station, and you'd think he'd be cool and collected given his years of experience with fish. But boy oh boy, did things go south for this guy. First off, he messed up the timing on his scallops after sending out his lobster tail, and to make things worse, by the time he plated them up, they were beyond overcooked. Chef Ramsay didn't hold back and gave this incompetent chef an earful.
Someone needs to eat this, not play fucking tennis with it.
I mean, none other than Steven Tyler was your guest of honor, Frank. Come on, get a grip. And all this to say, his lobster tail also ended up being overcooked to boot. You can imagine where Chef Ramsay's mind went after that.
More overcooked than the scallops. Did you leave your brain in Vegas?
Chef Ramsay decided that he'd had enough and gathered the red team in the pantry for a good old-fashioned Chef Ramsay signature berating. He wasn't impressed with their performance after that sorry attempt and demanded to know what the heck was going on. He deserved to know after all. Meanwhile, Frank, promising to bounce back, was definitely feeling the heat. But guess what? On his second attempt, as if he'd learned nothing, he made the exact same mistake. Those scallops just weren't getting dropped in on time. Latasha, tired of the nonsense, took matters into her own hands and took over the scallops. I mean, someone had to step in and fix things, right? As if the scallop debacle wasn't embarrassing enough, Frank managed to flip his salmon the wrong way while working on his entrees. Latasha, who was doing her very best to hide her annoyance, reminded him that it had to be cooked skin side down. But at that point, there was no saving it, it was overcooked to oblivion. And because of this, the famous chef had to send out an incomplete order, and a furious sous chef Andy, well...
You owe me a salmon because you fucking suck at fish station tonight.
You see, things just kept going from bad to worse for Frank. It just wasn't this guy's day. Because on Steven Tyler's order, Jennifer spotted a bunch of overcooked salmon on his tray. The famous chef demanded to see the evidence and was shocked at how badly Frank had messed them up. It was like he didn't care at all. What was up with this guy? Someone please tell me, where was the passion we'd seen from him the past 8 episodes? And just when you thought it couldn't get any more chaotic, our boy overcorrected way too far in the other direction since he sent out raw halibut.
I feel like the biggest piece of garbage.
The red team had a brutal service, no doubt about it. When it was all over, Chef Ramsay wanted to know who they'd nominate for elimination. Honestly, the answer should be pretty easy here. But just when they thought they could regroup in the dorms, Chef Ramsay had other plans in mind. Without even waiting for their nominations, the famous chef decided to take matters into his own hands.
Say goodbye to Frank.
Wow, did anyone see that coming? Well, I guess that's it. All it takes is just one bad service to send you packing. Well, as for me, I really loved Frank. And for real, I can't get over his little letter of gratitude to Chef Ramsay. The entirety of the letter was so sweet and showed just how much he valued the experience and the chance to learn. Not to mention, his bond with Sterling was absolutely wholesome. But hey, it's awesome to see how he's been thriving since the show. He's now offering private chef services, bringing culinary magic straight to the comfort of people's homes. Not just that, he's also working with Framboise Catering Company. Looks like that passion of his is back in business. Meanwhile, let's check out this time when Krupa made a surprise return for the final dinner service when Jamie didn't show up. She was Will's final pick and was on the fish station. However, 45 minutes into the service, that pick came back to bite him.
It's mush. Do another one.
All right.
To make matters worse, Krupa asked Jennifer to hold back on the garnishes for 6 minutes, leading to an array of complaints from the latter.
She had no idea what she was doing. Watching her was like going to the dentist.
Okay, so I'm still holding out hope that she'll get her act together. But when Will asked Krupa for timing on her entrees, this is what happened.
Long on a Dover, a bass, a veal in New York. A Dover, a bass, a guy.
Yeah, she wasn't responding, which is an absolute death sentence for any kitchen. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, and to top it all off, this happened too.
Oh my god.
You know what I think? This was a damn shit show. But she finally got her fish out, though probably not to Chef Ramsay's standards. Well, I don't know, let's just check it out.
It's undercooked. Let me take that back to the chef.
Damn, that's a freaking mess. Will had to demote her from desserts, and despite that, she still couldn't get it right. When she asked Natalie to walk one of her sea basses, it was still raw.
What is it supposed to be?
Cooked.
That is raw.
I gotta say, with all the mishaps and screw-ups she had in the kitchen, it's no wonder Will's service got derailed. Okay, it's incredibly disappointing to see someone talk a big game and then stumble right out of the gate. But sometimes, it can also be incredibly entertaining. And guess who comes to mind when I say that?
I do believe that I am the strongest member of the red team. And one of us has to make it to Black Jackets, but I'm hoping it's me.
Yep, our very own queen, Elise. During the first Black Jacket challenge, when she presented her dish to Chef Ramsay, it was like watching a comedy show. She struggled big time to explain what she had done with all those ingredients, and Nick couldn't help but point out that she seemed unsure of herself.
But today, Elise is grabbing her face. She's looking very scared. I think she's just unsure of herself.
Which reminds me, when was she sure of anything? Anyway, she lost the challenge to both Millie and Nick, and it was back to the drawing board for her. Elise was the final chef to have her dish judged by Chef Ramsay during the second Black Jacket challenge.
One tiny sack of can destroy the flavor of a $60 lobster.
That was a crappy situation. And nope, despite everything that happened, she didn't care enough to redeem herself. Even during the third challenge, she was all over the place, struggling to make a decision about her dish.
I have so many ideas, but can't really hone in on one.
Come on, Elise, you can do this. Make up your damn mind. In her head, she was gunning for a masterpiece, but for the other Black Jackets, it was a gummy mess. And even in that moment of intense pressure, she wasn't done attacking others.
Robin, she hasn't done anything remarkable. Jennifer's not vocal enough, and she doesn't know how to lead.
With her, it was always drama, drama, drama. She didn't let it up. But the time was ticking, and with only 90 seconds left, she was racing against the clock to get everything just right.
I need a bit more time.
Finally, it was time for Chef Ramsay to judge her dish. She presented her pan-seared filet mignon with all the fancy trimmings, but it fell short by a large margin. Ultimately, she was eliminated. For someone who had perfected the art of doing nothing, I think this decision was a long time coming. Like, she just stood there stone cold, stoic, and completely uninterested in helping her team. But hey, when has she ever been a team player, huh? Honestly, nothing comes to mind on my end. But I don't know, maybe I might be forgetting something. Feel free to remind me in the comment section down below. Though that aside, you gotta see what she's been up to now. And I've got a video all about it that you've gotta check out. Speaking of the Black Jacket Challenge that season though, there seems to be a general consensus that this chef didn't deserve it.
Robin.
Come on, Jennifer absolutely deserved it over her, right? And I'm not even gonna get into the question of who's better between her and Elise. Because, well, remember what happened last time the contestants made that decision?
I'm being honest.
You know what? You better hope I go home.
Fun times. And I think whether you like it or not, we got Elise to thank for a few memorable moments on the show. But Elise wasn't the only one who stayed on the show way longer than she should have. Because, despite given a chance at redemption, this contestant proved that he simply didn't have what it takes.
Hey, yes, Chef. Have you switched off?
No, Chef, I'm not.
Gotta admit, as sad as it may be, his downfall was pretty satisfying to watch. You've gotta love a little bit of schadenfreude every now and again. Like his cocky attitude paired with his constant need to shift the blame and talk over everyone else? Don't even get me started. Anyway, during the dinner service in season 17, episode 5, Josh was assigned to the garnish station. And well, it quickly became evident that he was in way over his head. His first order was for bar food, something that should be relatively straightforward, right? Like, even some of the worst bars in the world can churn out that kind of food like it's nothing. John Taffer can definitely attest to that. But somehow, it proved to be a challenge for him. Manda, ever the helpful teammate, warned him not to put the fish and chips in the same fryer to avoid making a mess. However, he couldn't keep up with the pace, and Chef Ramsay was quick to notice. Then came the moment that perfectly summed up this night. Manda pointed out that the fish he had just served looked way too dark.
Is that too dark?
I think so. At this stage, if you can't fry something, you need to go get a job, a law office.
But his struggles were far from over. His garnishes were a hot mess, and he couldn't seem to keep anything organized. The famous chef discovered that his spinach was watery and just had way too much garlic, and his mashed potatoes were more like potato soup.
And look, I've now got, look at that, that's liquid.
He decided to work on a lobster garnish for an order, but sous chef Christina quickly informed him that there was no lobster in that order.
The lobster what?
What lobster?
There's no lobster on.
Tough night, my guy. Back at the dorms, Josh was seriously evaluating his priorities. He realized that he had given up on everything to come back to the competition and wasn't ready to go down without a fight. Determined to redeem himself, he decided to march right back into the Red Kitchen and show everyone what he was made of. But his surprise return left the Red team scratching their heads.
What is he doing here?
I don't know, Chef. I don't know, Josh, get out.
And guess what? Chef Ramsay wasn't about to go easy on him.
But you are not ready to become my head chef. That is it. Over.
Yup, he was eliminated on the spot. Oh man, come on. He was great the first time around, but simply didn't belong in season 17 with or without the Red team's bullying. Did you catch those sneaky little jabs he threw at Nick? They reeked of a huge superiority complex. And while it's not exactly on topic, here's something a bit, weird. A Redditor shared how he slid into her DMs, sending unsolicited shirtless in-bed Snapchats and asking for meetups in LA. Yeah, no, I think we're done with this guy. Now I just feel gross about the whole situation. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about the mother of all meltdowns.
I don't want to take my jacket off. Bullshit. Oh, it pisses me off.
That's Hurricane Nilka for you, my friends. Now, we all like to make fun of it, but it was honestly relatively understandable. Having to face the possibility of her biggest dream slipping away can be quite overwhelming. That kind of pressure can really get to you, you know? Her emotional breakdown, well, it's a joke that's only really funny the first time. So today, we'll recap what exactly went wrong with her that night. During the dinner service, Nilka was in charge of the fish station. She was pumped up and eager to impress Chef Ramsay when the first ticket came in. But uh-oh, her scallops turned out raw and you couldn't have even made up a worse way to start the night.
You, madam, wake up!
I'm up, Chef.
You're up, no, you're down!
Then things went from bad to worse. She wasn't ready when Autumn sent her salads, and her turbot came out raw yet again. Chef Ramsay was clearly disappointed. But instead of putting the fish back in the pan like, you know, a normal person, she did something completely different.
gave her the piece of fish to put back in the pan.
Yeah, nerves were getting the best of her, and despite Jay's attempts to comfort her, she felt like the pressure was getting too much. She was determined not to go home, but it seemed like she was struggling to keep it together. The famous chef thought she had given up again, but she insisted that she hadn't. However, she had to have known she was messing up big time. Her lobster got rejected at the pass because she sent the wrong sauce with it. Things got so bad that Chef Ramsay had to pull her aside in the pantry to figure out what the hell was going on. Tearfully, she admitted that she was mad at herself for not performing better. And that's when Chef Ramsay gave her a reality check.
Get a fucking grip. If you can't hack it, you're out!
Back at her station, Benjamin tried to comfort her, but she was still beating herself up. It's understandable that high achievers often find it easier to bounce back from disappointment. But for perfectionists, it can be a real struggle. When their lofty expectations aren't met, they tend to be really hard on themselves and start spiraling.
I'm sorry. I didn't come here to lose. I'm not weak. I don't know about pride right now.
And it's pretty evident that Nilka was hard on herself, and it definitely took a toll on her. Later, back in the kitchen, Chef Ramsay asked Nilka for the scallops, and she took around 30 seconds to respond.
Scallops!
30 seconds, call
30 seconds, chef.
Jay did try to reassure her, but implored her to communicate a little bit better. And maybe that made a difference because when she finally sent the scallops, they were accepted. Hooray! But Nilka's nerves weren't through with her yet. She started to panic and accidentally ran into one of her containers. Jay tried to calm her down, but when Chef Ramsay asked her for the turbot, she wasn't ready. Sensing some trouble brewing, Jay reminded her not to flip it too soon as it needed more color. Chef Ramsay asked for the turbot yet again, but she kept struggling to communicate with Jay and couldn't give a clear answer. Then, when she sent her lobster to the pass, she hesitated to put it down.
Put them on the tray, talk to me.
Sadly, the lobster turned out to be raw. She tried to explain that she just took it out of the pan, but Ramsay was through with her. So did he take her to the pantry again? Well, that ship had already sailed. Ramsay's big on second chances, but third chances? Well, not for her at least, because he eliminated her right then and there. Nilka was told to take her jacket off and leave, but she tried to plead her case and even smashed a sign on the floor in frustration.
Chef, please don't say that! Oh, my fucking God!
Eesh, I get being upset, but that definitely isn't a good look. And despite being eliminated, Nilka returned to the kitchen, which did nothing but annoy Chef Ramsay even more.
They're under pressure, we're under pressure. Take your jacket off and get out!
You see, the famous chef was clearly fed up, and when he called the next ticket, Nilka tried to jump back on her station. He firmly ordered her to get out, but she still refused, insisting she just wanted to cook. But the famous chef was beyond through with her at this point.
Hey guys, I'm telling you now, do something for me. Get her out of here!
Geez, out here, things can spiral out of control in no time flat. Remember how Andrew from season 1 was caught cheating during one of his punishments? Yeah, during that night's dinner service, he had his hands full with both the appetizer and fish stations. But things started off on the wrong foot.
Andrew, can I have an answer?
Yep, he missed Chef Ramsay's orders. He managed to bounce back and impress Chef Ramsay with his salad appetizers though, so A for effort. But when it came to entrees, things went south yet again. He served perfectly cooked halibut, but Chef Ramsay wasn't happy because they were on cold plates. Might seem pedantic to you and I, but it's Hell's Kitchen after all. The famous chef gave him a good dressing down and ordered him to start over again. Sure, the pressure was on, but Andrew didn't back down. Jessica stepped in to lend a helping hand with the halibut, and they even managed to get them out the door in spite of it all.
It's okay, it's okay.
No, because they're fucking cold by the time I even dressed them.
But guess what? Just when he thought the worst was behind him, the halibut came waltzing back right into the kitchen almost immediately. Turns out every single one of them was overcooked. Ya hate to see it. Later on, when Andrew tried to communicate that he needed 6 more minutes to cook the halibut to perfection, the famous chef decided to cut that time down to 4. And that's when he lost it.
It's not chemically possible to cook that halibut in 4 minutes.
To add to the drama, Chef Ramsay called it quits for both kitchens. Eventually, with the number of returning orders piling up, the blue team ended up losing the service.
Ralph should have opened his mouth, but he didn't because he knew he was wrong.
Who would have expected that, right? Man, it was tough to watch Andrew put all the blame on Ralph, not to mention how he avoided taking responsibility for his own mistakes. That refusal to own up to his slip-ups ended up being his undoing. However, in season 14, Sarah's performance during her final dinner service, let's just say it was cringeworthy.
It was miscommunication, Chef.
Oh, fucking hell.
She sent out undercooked Wellingtons and overcooked lamb, and we all know how Chef Ramsay feels about that. Megan couldn't hold back her annoyance and straight up said that Sarah should have learned how to cook before joining the competition. Even when she got help from T, things didn't improve very much. She kept slicing raw lamb, and T and the others lost trust in her skills because of it. But that wasn't all. Here's a look at what else happened.
Cut them and you see they're raw, you have to put them back into the oven. You don't keep cutting them, Sarah.
She sent out oxidized chicken, which dragged her team down even more. Eventually, because of all of her blunders, the red team got kicked out of the kitchen. It was so tough to see, but even on the way back to the dorms, she continued to complain.
It's not fun to work with people who hate you.
Much to the men's annoyance, in her elimination plea, Sarah desperately asked for a team swap, hoping for a fresh start.
Do you think you could cook better in the men's team?
I know I can cook better with the men.
But her plea was rejected. And after that sorry display, well, I can't say I blame them. Well, these were some of the craziest meltdowns that I could think of from the show. But I'm sure there are many more. Which is why I invite you to join me on my channel's Discord server for free, where we can continue this discussion about even more contestants who made Ramsay clench his teeth. Well, I'm really excited to see you there, but before you leave, make sure to smack that like button, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And don't forget to check out my latest video right here, since it's even crazier. Have a fantastic day, guys.